Hi, welcome to your training on sprint interval training. This training, we're going to cover several things. First of all, why sit is game changer. Second, sit versus HIIT. We'll cover what the difference is. Then, how to gauge the intensity. Also, benefits for women over 40 and how to start and some example workouts. So let's jump right into it. Why is sit a game changer? Well, sit basically stands for sprint interval training, SIT. And this is really one of the most effective tools for fat loss and metabolic health, especially we love this for women over 40. What it's going to do is it's going to tap into those fast twitch muscle fibers, the ones that help you to look strong and sculpted. It's going to torch your body fat in a short amount of time. It's going to improve your insulin sensitivity and cardiovascular health. And it's going to boost the mood and brain clarity thanks to that endorphin rush that you'll get. Best of all, you really only have to do it a couple of times per week, 1 to 2 times, to really start seeing results. So I want to talk about sit versus HIIT because sometimes we get a little confused on what is what. And a lot of times we'll use HIIT as like a description, even when we're talking about sit. So it can be confusing, but really most of the time in our training protocols, what we actually want you doing is sit. So the sprint interval training. They sound familiar, but they're not exactly the same. So I'm going to talk about the differences. Sit is very short bursts. So this is maximum intensity. You're thinking, I'm going as hard as I can, all out effort for that 20 to 30 seconds. So no holding back, 100% effort, right? Then that's going to be followed by a longer rest period. We want full recovery. So your rest period is going to be anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes, whatever it takes to bring you back to that reset. And, then we're repeating. The true sprint effort, this is what it should feel like. You won't be able to talk. So if you're able to carry on a conversation while you're doing your 20 to 30 seconds, you're not going hard enough. This is like you're running as fast as you can, or you're pushing the bike as hard as you can. You're going so hard that you can't carry on a conversation. And then, usually we're doing a shorter amount of rounds because of the higher effort. So this is done in like maybe 4 to 6 rounds max. We're not extending this into a long session. Our goal really with the sit is to spike your heart rate so it's getting up nice and high, and then following that, allowing that full recovery. So I'm not really going to talk about heart rate zones because what we want is that feeling of exertion, right? Your effort. So that full effort followed by I feel ready, I'm back to normal, I'm fully recovered, and then we're going to repeat that back and forth. Now, how is that different than HIIT? Because you probably have heard of HIIT before. So HIIT is basically similar, and you're going back and forth between effort and less effort, but it's usually longer intervals. So that max effort or the high effort part, it's not full effort. It's moderate to high intensity. And that typically is a little bit longer period of like 30 seconds to a minute. And then you're following that with a shorter rest period. So recover, but you don't fully recover. So you're staying in a moderate level of intensity really for both sessions. You're going a little bit higher, but then you're dropping down, but not all the way down. So the difference between the high and the low in HIIT is closer together. In sit, it's further apart. You got a higher high and a lower low versus HIIT is kind of staying more in the middle. And like I said, this is probably something you've heard of before. So you're thinking like a boot camp style workout, like circuits, maybe burpees, jump squats, things that you kind of get that high to moderate intensity. And then you got a shorter amount of rest, maybe a Tabata. And really the goal is that you're working hard the entire time with a lot less rest. So both are useful, but sit has been shown to offer powerful body recomposition and hormonal benefits. It takes less time and overall is less stress on the body. So for women in our 40s and over, this is a preferred method for getting better results from your training. And we really are a little bit more sensitive to that moderate high training intensity that HIIT can give, which sometimes is not good for your cortisol levels. So this offers another technique that seems to be more effective. So how can you gauge the intensity? This is one thing to think about because we're not following your heart rate necessarily. We're just talking about that sprint interval. So what should that feel like? it should feel like you are like 90 to 100% max effort, like really going all out as hard as you can, running as fast as you can, pushing as hard as you can in the exercise or the movement you're doing. Like you're giving it your all. Now, you think that's why it's shorter, right? Because you aren't able to maintain or sustain that amount of effort for very long. At the end, you're totally out of breath. By the end of the sprint, you're like ready to stop. You can't keep going. And then, that's exactly it. You feel like I have to stop. There's no like, I'm just going to keep pushing and grind it out a little bit further. It's like, no, we come to the end, I'm done. So during your rest period though, that's when you have that recovery. And this is really important and key. If you're not fully recovering, you're not going to be able to hit that same level of high intensity in the next round. So you got to make sure that you're getting that all out effort followed by full recovery. And so that's why that rest time, when you're looking at it, you're thinking that's kind of a long time, like 2 to 4 minutes of rest. Like I'm going to be bored, right? But if you're really giving it 100% effort, you're going to need that longer rest time so that you can go and give it that all your next round, right? So we're going to talk about, we use the RPE scale, or the rate of perceived exertion. That's what that stands for. So think if I'm thinking about how much my effort is, how much exertion I'm giving, if you're doing an all out sprint, you're rating it a 9 to 10, like I'm going all out. In your rest period, you're rating it like a 1 to 2, all the way opposite, right? Extreme opposites on the spectrum as far as effort goes. So let's talk about some of the benefits for women over 40. As we age, we naturally start to lose that fast twitch muscle and the mitochondrial function that goes along with that. So SIT really helps to reverse that. It's like anti-aging. It's going to help preserve your lean muscle. It's going to train your heart and your metabolism, boost your human growth hormone and your testosterone naturally. So, these are things that are going to be dropping as we get older. We need to try to fight and battle to keep those nice and high. It's going to support insulin sensitivity and your blood sugar control. It'll improve your endurance and your athleticism. And added benefit, it typically takes less time and it's easier to stay consistent because you don't have to put as much minutes into it, right? And the most important thing is that it doesn't add that excess stress that I mentioned before, like HIIT and longer cardio sessions can. And that's really, really huge for our hormone balance. And, as we get older, the way that we handle stress really changes, and we need to be, changing the way that we're working out because of that. So to give you some places to start, I can always program specific HIIT workouts for you in your program. However, people like to have a little bit of variety sometimes. And so I like to offer it up as here's some examples of what you can do, and then allow you to pick and choose what you're feeling for that day. Because maybe on a day I put sprints, you're like, I'm really not feeling running today. I would rather do the bike or something like that. So these are some common things that will really be useful to get started. And then you can just modify them for your ability. So all you have to do is start with maybe 1 or 2 times per week doing these particular types of workouts. So it can be done like running, biking, using certain machines, something that you can really get that heart rate going up quickly. Always start with warm up first. You want to warm up for 5 to 10 minutes. Light movement, some mobility, maybe just walking, kind of getting the heart rate going so that you have blood flow in the body and you're not totally shocking it with your first sprint. Some examples of how you can do your actual SIT workouts: 20-second sprint. This is running, right? So if you have a treadmill that is self-propelled, those are really great for this because you can get to that max effort really quickly and stop quickly. If you're on a traditional treadmill, you're going to jack up the speed as high as you can sprint, so that you're standing on the side, you jump on, you start sprinting as fast as you can, because if you're hitting the button, it's not going to speed up fast enough. So you want that treadmill already going fast. Or if you're outside, this is a great place to do outside sprints because you can go up to that full effort really quickly. So 20-second sprint, and then you follow that by 2 minutes of walking. That's getting the heart rate back down. So maybe start with 4 rounds of this after your warm up, and then you can build on that as you build in your training intensity. Another example would be 30 seconds on the bike sprint. So Airdyne bikes are amazing for this. You can use a spin bike too, something that you can really get pedaling fast and hard with. and you're going as fast and hard as you can for that 30 seconds. Then follow it with like a 3-minute slow pedal. So slow pedal is like, I'm not having to work hard. I'm just recovering, right? It's like coasting. Do that for 4 or 5 rounds. Awesome example there. Another one, if you've got like a sled push, that's a good one to get that heart rate up. You got to push hard. You can also do dead mill on this, where you have the treadmill off, power off, and you have to push the tread itself. So with that, it's typically heavy weight. You're pushing hard. You only need like 15 seconds to get that max effort, and then you're following by about 3 minutes full recovery. Repeat for 4 or 5 rounds. And another one, climbing stairs is easy to do, in your home if you need to, or, at a park or something that has stairs. You can use like a step mill, but it's got to be one that's like easy to jump on and off of. Because if it's going and you can't get on it while it's going, it's going to be hard to get up to that higher speed on the stairs. Where you're getting that full max effort. So it works better when it's like real stairs. So go for 20 seconds. Maybe you only need 2 or 3 minutes rest. And it's like you're walking, basically sprinting up the stairs and then taking your time walking back down the stairs. Rowing machines are also really good for this because you can get that high intensity quick, rowing super hard and fast. Go for 30 seconds, 3 minutes of rest. Hill sprints, another good one. Sometimes even better than like your regular sprint, because that intensity builds really quickly when you're uphill. So if you're running up the hill, obviously you're going hard, you're hitting that max effort really quickly. You only need 15 seconds, and then your slow walk back down to the bottom, repeat. So here's some great examples. Like you notice, it's not a set number of minutes. You want to get to that max effort. So when you're done, you're done. So if your goal is to go for 30 seconds on the rowing, but you're dead at 20 seconds, then you're doing 20 seconds. Have some flexibility with it, because that's going to really gauge the max effort, as opposed to just like hitting a standard but not going full out. Also, if you're new to this, start slow. Your sprint may not be like super fast. You might just be more of a power walk. You want to build up to this type of training and not overdo it to begin with, but also be sure to challenge yourself. So in the beginning, start off a little bit slower, test the waters a little bit, see what feels good for your body. And then you can make those adjustments as you build experience in this type of training by increasing that training intensity as your body gets used to it. And remember, the goal is max effort for you. So don't compare yourself to others. Just do what you can do on that day. And, giving it your all is what's going to give you the best results. So have fun, go for it, and hopefully you enjoy this type of training.